we're going to be ranking the top Chads and Tyrones when it comes to superheroes. Some of these guys may not even be the most powerful, but every single time we see them on screen in the comic, they radiate main character energy. As we all know, Chads and Tyrones are always carrying main character energy, right? So we're going to be looking through who has this type of presence, swagger, style, fearlessness, leadership, all the encompassing marks of a Chad or a Tyrone, and we're going to be ranking these on the tier list. Okay, the first guy here that we're going to be talking about is Bruce Wayne, Batman. When it comes to Chads in comic books, you can't really talk about Chads without bringing up Batman, all right? I wouldn't say Batman has charisma, to be honest. I would say Bruce Wayne does, right? Batman himself has power, intimidation, and just respect, okay? As soon as he walks in a room, like, you can feel his presence, right? You're more intimidated and not wanting to fuck with him than more of a guy that's just really charismatic, all right? On the other hand, though, this is what really makes him a Chad. You know, Bruce Wayne is the opposite spectrum of what Batman is, where he's charismatic, he's happy, he gets all the girls, right? It's like, it's a night and day difference, and he's able to switch back and forth between the two, which makes him, I can't put him anywhere else but S tier. I just can't, all right? So Batman, we're gonna have to put him up at S tier because at that point, he has two personalities that equal up to a Chad, okay? Next one, Iron Man. The funny thing about Iron Man is he's basically the Batman of the MCU, right? But I wouldn't categorize Iron Man as a Chad because I don't think he's developed those other attributes that would warrant a Chad, like intimidation and power and respect and charisma. Like, well, Robert Downey Jr., we saw a different side of Iron Man with him being casted. But when we're talking about the comics and just who he is, Tony is someone that became a Chad later on in his life when he got everything figured out, right? You wouldn't look at him as that jock, Chad type of dude. He basically developed himself to be someone that can attract all the things that a Chad can attract. Basically, the women, the respect, the power from his intellect, right? So I wouldn't put him as S tier. I would honestly put him C tier. Okay, and the reason why is just because you don't look at Iron Man and say, yeah, he's an absolute Chad. You just don't. So I would put him as C tier. Now, Hal Jordan. Hal Jordan is definitely self-explanatory of where he is on this list, okay? Hal Jordan is one of the most charismatic, cocky, arrogant, but likable comic book characters that we've ever had, okay? The brash, confident, fearless Green Lantern. Okay, you can't get more Chad than him. All right. One of the funniest parts about him is he's just a Joker, right? Like I remember if you guys watched that DC animated film where he got his ass beat, he was one of the best parts about that, right? He's always keeping a light energy, you know, his confidence. And he's literally the strongest Green Lantern too, right? He has that fearlessness about him too that just makes him absolute Chad, all right? Green Lantern, Hal Jordan is obviously an S tier Chad. It's just, that's self-explanatory, period. We're talking about the Tyrones here. There hasn't been that many Tyrones in a sense that have like displayed those characteristics in terms of the brashness and the confidence. But there's one person that's going to be the top of this list here for one simple reason, right? And that guy is Black Panther. Black Panther is a Tyrone because, first of all, bro is literally the richest superhero in the MCU. Like, he literally has the most money out of everybody, right? He's a royal king, right? And the main reason why this dude is such a Tyrone is because he bagged the baddest comic book female ever grace us, Storm, okay? Argument for me if you want, but Storm is the baddest comic book female. Just the strength of that, Black Panther, he's not S tier because he doesn't embody everything that we would recognize as Chad, but all those other attributes get him to A tier, right? Just for the fact that he's more of a cool, calm, collected Chad, right? Like he has all those attributes, but he doesn't really display it for everyone to see, okay? This one, if you're talking about the epitome of a Chad, of what you would want a Chad to be, right? Someone that's not cocky, arrogant, and all the negative things that are associated with Chads. If there was a tier above S tier, we're gonna have to give it to my man Nightwing, all right? Nightwing, Dick Grayson, has all the positive attributes of a Chad and none of the negative attributes of a Chad, right? Not only is bro have the looks of a Greek god, right? The athleticism, the build, just effortless charisma. Like when we see Dick Grayson, you know, Nightwing on a cover, like you can't do nothing but be happy because you just fuck with him so much, right? Dick Grayson literally developed all the Chad traits of Batman, but despite his traumatic past, still has a smile on his face, right? It's like after all that adversity that he's gone through, he's still very hopeful and just cheery and just someone that, you know, his energy radiates off of everybody, right? You know, as the leader of the Teen Titans, he's an awesome leader where he cares about his family, his teammates, all the other members. He just is someone that exudes positive energy, right? And when you combine the internal aspect of being a Chad and just being confident, being charismatic or whatever, and then also being a good person as well too, like you can't get better than that, right? That's what we should all aspire to be, is someone like Dick Grayson, where after everything we've gone through, we still have a smile on our face and we still are confident, fearless, just extremely good at what we do, right? Dick Grayson, I mean, he's gonna be an S tier 100%, right? But if it was a tier higher than that, I would, because that's the epitome of a Chad. Thor, really? Like, you guys remember that scene in Avengers Endgame, or was it Infinity War, where Iron Man asked Star-Lord if he's seen Thor, and then Star-Lord was like, you guys know which one I'm talking about, right? And then Spider-Man looks at him like, the fuck? All right, you can say everything else, but you can't tell me that motherfucker's not a Chad, all right? Thor is literally like a Chad in the Norse god realm. Like he literally has all the attributes that a high school Chad would have, but just in MCU universe and in Marvel, right? Not only is Thor one of the most confident, brash dudes, Thor is strong as hell. All you gotta do is put a varsity jacket on this dude and yeah, he's like, oh yeah, he's definitely a Chad, for sure. Bro's got the build, muscular as hell. We don't see him interact with women that much, but as you guys know, like one of the main reasons why a lot of women love the MCU is because of Thor and Chris Hemsworth, right? Like, let's be real here. So I'm gonna have to put Thor as an S tier Chad. It's just, like, you can't say he's not up there. He's not up there as an epitome of a Chad, right? Now, Captain America. Captain America is a very difficult one because he has great leadership. He has great confidence. I wouldn't even say he's charismatic like that because, you know, it's Cap. You just got a lot of respect for him, you know, but I wouldn't say he's charismatic where he's like, oh, you want to be around this dude or whatever. He seems like a good time. No, Captain America is obviously a soldier, disciplined, and does what he needs to do, right? I feel like he's someone that is afraid to do the wrong thing, right? I think he's someone that's afraid to take risks. So when you have that kind of holding you back, I just couldn't categorize you as a Chad or up there in a sense, because one of the biggest things about being a Chad is just taking risks, not giving a fuck what people think of you, right? So when it comes to Cap, even Chris Evans, who is attracted to a lot of people, he just doesn't give that Chad energy. He just doesn't, all right? So we're gonna have to put him in C tier. Or actually, yeah, we're gonna have to put him in C tier. In that case, we're gonna have to go back and place Iron Man above real quick to a B tier, because he definitely is more of a Chad than Captain America. I'm not gonna lie. So that's my fault for categorizing him wrong in the first place. We're gonna move Iron Man to B tier. All right, next guy, another Tyrone, John Stewart. John Stewart is literally the only black Green Lantern, right? And if you guys watch Justice League Unlimited, he had an energy similar to Batman, where he's just he's stoic, he's not really emotional, and you know, obviously they're all in shape, right? Definitely confident, you know, he's 100% fearless, right? You know, he's someone that kind of like Black Panther in the sense that they don't really display those brash behaviors of a Chad. When it comes to him, you know, we're gonna have to place him as C tier, right? He has most of the attributes, but doesn't display that energy consistently, all right? Superman. Now this one is gonna be a big one, all right? Superman is by far the most powerful character, and he acts like he's not. Like, Clark, how the fuck does that make any sense, bro? You can't be too humble all the time, okay? Like, you just can't be humble all the time when you're that powerful, bro. And that's what pisses me off about Superman. Literally the most perfect being possible, and he literally acts like he's not. You know, it's nothing wrong with being humble, right? But sometimes you gotta pop your shit sometimes, bro. You know what I'm saying? Like, you gotta act like, you know, guys can't fuck with you. But he's just too humble and just such a Boy Scout that it's like, bro, this is why Batman gets all the females, right? Like, that's why you got Wonder Woman liking Batman more than Superman, even though Superman could kill Batman like this, right? It wouldn't be close. It's because the internal energy that Batman has is just not needy and just, you know, extremely sure of himself, right? And Superman does not give that at all. Like, he'll have these, you know, moments, these spurts where he, you know, okay, he's showing that he's him, right? Like, obviously, I think the only one that was able to do that well was Henry Cavill, right? In Zack Snyder's Superman. There were a couple of times where, you know, he showed his confidence in himself and, you know, or farmed any chance that he could get, right? But overall, you know, generally speaking, Superman is not a Chad. He's just not, even though he literally could decide to be one at any point in time. All right. So we're gonna have to put Superman as C tier, right? And that shit pisses me off. All right. That shit pisses me off that we're gonna have to put this guy as C tier. Superman, do better, bro. Do better. Spider-Man. Peter Parker. The thing about Spider-Man is that he's a Chad and he doesn't know it. Like, he's so naive, you know, that obviously comes with it, you know, from his age and just what he's done, that he doesn't realize how much aura that he has. This dude is in relationship with like 5 different women every time I see, you know, a comic with him. Like, it's like he's with a new girl every other day. Spider-Man is a Chad in the sense that he has all the characteristics in terms of, okay, you know, after getting bit, he has the strength, the power, the likableness, charisma, all those things, right? But he's just not aware of it and doesn't display it as much as he should. If you guys remember Spectacular Spider-Man, not gonna lie, when he got the black suit, that's when he had the most aura, even more than the live action. When he got that black suit in Spectacular Spider-Man, there was nobody on Earth fucking with him, okay? Bro was him 100% of the time. So that's the potential that he could be even without the black suit, but he doesn't really carry that energy still. And, you know, he's someone that I feel like is gonna develop into a more Chad in the future, like Iron Man, right? He's gonna be able to see all of his strengths and, you know, get a lot more confidence in himself to the point where he can categorize himself as a, you know, as a Chad, all right? But we're gonna have to place him as C tier, right? Omni-Man, all right. Omni-Man is a dad Chad, okay? He's like who you'd wanna be as a dad, all right? Just, okay, obviously not how he treats his children, but just his charisma, his strength, his power, all the positive traits. When we're talking about father, okay, we're definitely worst father of the year, all right? That's not what I meant when I said, you know, want to be as a father, okay? I'm just talking about the aspect of a Chad. You know, Omni-Man is strong as fuck, has respect from everyone. Nobody's fucking with him. He's not, you know, as brash and arrogant or whatever. He's more controlled. You know, like I said, a dad Chad, you know, just a more mature Chad, right? Internally, he still knows he's him, right? You know, he's never gonna forget that or act like it's not, you know, if someone tries to press him, he's gonna show it for sure. But he's more of a controlled Chad where all those attributes are developed and more controlled and not, you know, the typical arrogant, you know, Chad type of guy, right? We're talking about, you know, what a Chad would develop to and the epitome without the father side and how he cares for his kids. I'm gonna have to put Omni-Man at S tier. I'm gonna have to put him at S tier. All right. Invincible, since we're on the topic of Omni-Man. Mark. Bro disappoints me almost every season, all right? But I know he's in development to become him. But it's just his behaviors in the show is just not Chad-like at all. He doesn't behave like he's him. He's like, you know, obviously one of the strongest characters in that show, but doesn't move like it. You know, he just doesn't move like it. He's, you know, needy with the girls. He's, you know, he's over here with Eve after, you know, it's just like, you gotta do better, bro. All right? Like I said, you know, a lot of these guys have these attributes, but they don't exude it as much as they should. I haven't read the comics or anything, but I heard that he's gonna become him in the future. So with him, I guess he's a case of developing like Spider-Man, right, in the future. So I'm gonna have to put him at C tier. All right. I think most of these guys have enough confidence where, you know, they're in that range, right? They just haven't developed it to that point. The guys at the top, I feel like have developed those characteristics the earliest, right? And have embodied them the longest, where it's a part of them. It's not something that came in later on. All right, they've always had that internal belief and confidence in themselves. You guys might have forgotten him, but trust me, this was my first introduction to a Chad, all right? Do you guys remember Kid Flash from the Teen Titans series? When that dude was introduced, I'm like, who the fuck is this dude? Like, all right, like he's doing a little too much. He's over here taking the spotlight from everybody. You know, like, I'm like, this motherfucker is fast as shit, has hella confidence, and he's over here exuding all the attributes. And that was really one of my first introductions to a Chad was Kid Flash, right? When he got to the Titans Tower, like everybody's like, who's this dude? I'm gonna have to rank Kid Flash you know, in the Teen Titans series as S tier, bro, because he just had that charisma, that confidence, and that, you know, that likability factor when I was such a young kid that it's ingrained in my brain. Like, there's no way I would have thought of him if he didn't make an impact on me as a kid. Like, everybody knows we were all trying to be the fastest kid in elementary school, right? The fastest kid was the Chad in middle and elementary school, okay? And that was my first depiction of that. I'm like, shit, you know, Wally West was him. So I can't put him nowhere else but S tier because he was one of the original Chads. And then cliche Chad here, right? The one that this is literally his character is in the comics, right? Booster Gold. I would say he's likable in the sense that, you know, he adds a little bit of a character whenever he's seen, like, you know, a little side of him. So obviously has the utmost confidence in himself. He was actually a jock in a Chad in high school and played football, right? So he's been in that Chad territory, you know, since high school. But, you know, his morals are really fucked up, right? Like, it's just, bro is literally a superhero just because he wants to get fame and fortune and fulfill his ego. Like, I just can't respect that, right? When you got guys like Dick Grayson, you know, Hal Jordan that literally put their life on the line when it matters. That's not my epitome of Chads, right? He's a Chad like on paper, right? But he doesn't give that energy in the proper way, like where it's correctly received. Booster Gold, just for the fact that on paper that's what he is, you know, I'm gonna place him at B tier, right? Just because that's literally what he is. But just all those negative aspects in his moral code just has me like, nah, yeah, you're a Chad on paper or whatever, but I don't think people really fuck with you as much as you think they do. Simple. Yeah, that is my superhero Chad and Tyrone tier list. There's definitely a bunch of guys that I'm missing, right? But if you guys do want me to do another one, you know, comment on it below. I'd love to make another one because I know there's a bunch that I'm missing. Let me know what you guys think. You know, is this a pretty accurate list? Your thoughts on it? But thank you. Until next time.